Good afternoon and welcome to
How are you?
the virtual closing reception for the 2021 Southern Prize and State Fellowship exhibit at the 701 Center for Contemporary Arts in Columbia, South Carolina. I am Joy Young, Vice President of Programs at South Arts. South Arts is your regional organization serving artists, arts organizations, arts leaders, and communities, as well as a host of partners and collaborators across our 9 southern states. I am honored to be with all of you today. Now, although we are virtual, something that some of us have grown accustomed to, the vivacity of this very special afternoon, this very special gathering is increased because of the presence of the 2021 Southern Prize Fellow, Marielle Plaisir. I want to acknowledge our dynamic board of directors and executive leadership, our sponsors, and dedicated staff and contractors who are all working together to animate our mission of advancing Southern vitality for the arts. Your presence is an indication of your support, or maybe curiosity of the arts, and the talented artists whose work you will engage with today. Either way, we are glad to have you. The Q&A box at the bottom of the screen is where you will enter questions for the Q&A portion of the program. So again, thank you for the privilege of your time. I'll now hand over today's program to Michaela Pilar Brown, Executive Director of the 701 Center for Contemporary Arts in Columbia, South Carolina. Michaela?
Good afternoon. Welcome to 701 Center for Contemporary Art in Columbia, South Carolina, South Arts 2021 Southern Prize and State Fellows Exhibition. I am Michaela Pilar Brown, Executive Director of 701 Center for Contemporary Art. 701 Center for Contemporary Art presents high-quality, diverse contemporary art programs that reflect and expand its community's cultural, aesthetic, educational, and social interests. The center organizes about 6 exhibitions each year and has an artist in residence program with 3 or 4 artists annually. It convenes panels about contemporary art and organizes adult workshops, lectures, and gallery talks to broaden understanding of contemporary practices. 701 CCA also offers youth summer workshops and presents performances by professional dancers, musicians, and multidisciplinary artists. 701 CCA Biennial, introduced in 2011, the 701 CCA Prize for South Carolina artists 40 and younger, introduced in 2012, dramatically improved the state's arts infrastructure for artists and audiences. 701 CCA's Columbia Open Studios does as well. Aside from the biennial and prize, 701 CCA provides exhibition and residency opportunities for South Carolina artists, as well as international, national, and regional artists who otherwise would bypass the state. Residents are given time, space, a stipend, and other resources to produce work, engage the community through workshops, conversations, and lectures. To promote cross-fertilization between different art forms and audiences, 701 CCA has organized dance, music, theater, spoken word, and other literary performances and programs, both independent and as part of its exhibitions program. Thank you and welcome.
On behalf of South Arts, it's my pleasure to welcome you to this special presentation celebrating the art and artists of the Southern Prize and State Fellowships. South Arts first awarded these prizes in 2017 to spotlight, support, and celebrate the visual arts of the American South. Since its inception, we have awarded 45 artists and $400,000 in prizes, making this one of the largest visual arts prize programs in the region. And the program continues to grow. In 2019, we added an exhibition of that year's winners, which we continue to this day. Beginning this year, the exhibition is touring to museums and galleries in the South, including Columbus, Georgia, Columbia, South Carolina, Charlotte, North Carolina, Charleston, South Carolina, and Orlando, Florida. And we are working on booking tour locations for the next 2 years. All of this progress helps South Arts accomplish its goals of supporting artists, communities, and advancing Southern vitality through the arts. We are so proud of the growing impact of the Southern Prize and State Fellowships and the ways in which it is engaging communities, encouraging dialogue, and reflecting our diverse cultures. This program would not be possible without the strong support of sponsors, organizations, and individuals who believe in the power of the arts. I want to take this moment to thank all of our contributors to this year's Southern Prize. You will see them listed here, including the state arts agencies from all 9 states in the South Arts region. Blue Cross Blue Shield of South Carolina and Cyberwoven helped make the exhibition at 701 CCA possible. I want to especially thank Southern First Bank and our lead sponsor, Chubb. We are honored to have Chubb as a partner, and I'd like to conclude my welcome by introducing Jim Patterson, Personal Lines Manager for Chubb.
Good afternoon. Hi, my name is Jim Patterson, Personal Lines Manager with Chubb Insurance. Wanted to begin by saying thank you to South Arts for allowing us to be a part of this event today. As one of the world's largest insurers of artwork and collectibles, Chubb is able to provide unparalleled service, coverages, and expertise to our clients. We're always looking for ways to partner with the art community, especially at the local level. So teaming up with South Arts to be part of the Southern Prize made perfect sense. We look forward to a great event today. Thank you for attending. And again, thank you to South Arts for allowing Chubb to be a part of it.
We are in Columbia, South Carolina, 701 Center for Contemporary Art. I'm Michaela Pilar Brown. I'm the Executive Director. We are thrilled to be presenting the Southern Prize and State Fellows exhibition. It's a wonderfully diverse exhibition with myriad Southern voices, a contemporary look at what art looks like in the South. We're thrilled that you get to see contemporary Southern art and contemporary Southern voices.
Keith Calhoun and Chandler McCormick are the State Fellows for Louisiana. Work in this exhibition is sort of a monument to their own resilience and that of the people they photograph. The images, or rather the transparencies and negatives of these images, were destroyed, or so it seemed, during Hurricane Katrina. But when they gave them a look later on, they noticed that there might actually be some real beauty in the way these negatives and transparencies were affected by the water. The photographs have gotten a real painterly quality and have added a dimension to what regular photography would have given them. Tamika Cole is the State Fellow for Alabama. She's in Birmingham, Alabama, and her story is quite a remarkable one. She was imprisoned for 26 years and is now living a life on parole, as she calls it. In prison, she got into art programs, writing and art programs provided by the University of Auburn University, and that sort of, she said, made the penny drop. It really sort of made a big difference in her life and allowed her to deal, what she says, to deal with her demons without them hurting other people. Through her art now, she wants to be an activist and an agent for change. From Tennessee, the State Fellow is Rale Filsufi. She's actually from Iran, but has lived in the United States for quite a while. She deals with sort of human communication through the lens of migration, immigration, borders, and an issue of that nature, and the way different cultures might interact through her art, like for instance the screens, the monitors through which all these people peek at the viewer and the viewer peeks back. You know, she forces the viewer to sort of confront their own notions of who the other people are. You look at these people and you start making up stories about where they might be from and who they might be. Fletcher Williams is from Charleston, South Carolina, and he's the South Carolina State Fellow. He also is a Southern Prize finalist, meaning the runner-up. And his sculpture in this exhibition, the picket fences point outwards. They almost are like a castle defense to protect whatever is in it. And what is in it are Charleston palmetto roses, an important element of the African American culture in the city where he lives, Charleston, South Carolina, but also an element that symbolizes some of the hardship and some of the struggles that African Americans have to maintain that culture, and in this case, for the people who make these roses and sell them on the street to actually be continued to allow to do that. Marielle Plaisir is the State Fellow for Florida, and she's also the 2021 winner of the Southern Prize. She was born in France, but has strong roots in Guadeloupe in the Caribbean, and as such is herself a product of Western colonialism. And so her work is really very much about how people who have lived in oppressed and suppressed environments and situations, how they deal with identity, how their identity is shaped. And so in her work, which takes on a wide variety with many, many different media, she creates these scenes that sort of have sometimes an utopian look, if you like. She might place certain people off suppressed groups in these fabulous, lush environments. The environments themselves are inspired by her background in Guadeloupe in the Caribbean. But what she does is, she says, she tries to create a utopia. She tries to create a situation where suppression and oppression is not a factor. It's a form of resistance, but also a way of creating hope. It's resistance against oppression, and it shows the hope by the environment she creates for the people who have traditionally been oppressed and suppressed. Can't hear you.
I'd like to take a moment to introduce Marielle Plaisir, 2021 Florida Fellow and winner of the Southern Prize. Plaisir is a Hollywood, Florida resident, of French Caribbean descent, a multimedia artist with strong ties to Guadeloupe. She was born in Le Havre, France. Among her solo exhibitions are several in Bordeaux, France, including at the Musée d'Aquitaine, the NSU Art Museum of Fort Lauderdale, Florida, with the ACTA Non Verba performance in collaboration with Anselm Kiefer, MoCA Miami, and Locust Project in Miami, Taffeta Gallery in London, Debut Gallery in New York, St. Paul and St. Pierre Cathedral in Guadeloupe, and the French Embassy in Senegal. Among group shows Plaisir has participated in are those at New York's Hunter Gallery, Oolite Art in Miami Beach, Miami's Little Haiti Cultural Center, and Doraus Dorcam, all in Florida. Memorial Act Museum in Guadeloupe, and Musée d'Orsay in Paris. Her works have been presented widely at fairs and biennials in London, New York, Miami, and Miami Beach, Paris, Florence, Italy, Sao Paulo, Brazil, Dakar, Senegal, Santo Domingo, Dominican Republic, and elsewhere. Plaisir graduated from the National Superior School of Fine Art and Decorative Arts in Bordeaux. I'd like to welcome you to a discussion of her work. If you'd like to join the Q&A, please use the button at the bottom of your screen. Good afternoon, Marielle.
Hello, good afternoon. Here in Colorado, it's 10 a.m. and the weather, the sky is super blue and the weather is nice. And I am very happy to be there with you today.
Wonderful, thank you. Marielle, please tell us how you come to art making. What is your experience of art before choosing this as a career path?
I think I started to draw at the age of 6. It was in France, in north of France, Normandy, where I was born. And I never stopped to draw. I never stopped. Since this time, I never stopped to draw, to paint, and to create my own world. And I did my studies in Fine Art School in Bordeaux, 6 years. And I came back to Guadeloupe after that with my father, my family. And 6 years ago, I decided to have a career as a full-time artist in the US.
Wonderful. Please tell us, what are the primary themes in the work that you're creating at this moment in time?
Work is just an open window on our societal behavior. I'm just trying to understand our world, to create my own vision of the world, and also to create a sort of beautiful world without oppression. That's a sort of dreamlike world that I'm creating through different media, through sculptures, through backlights, through monumental piece of art, and I think it's a sort of commitment.
What role does history play in creating these conversations?
I think that my work articulates the realities of living in an unjust society. And I feel like, okay, I am part of the Caribbean identities. I have this part. I have another part, which is a European identity. I grew up with 2 components through Caribbean fairy tales, the sort of beautiful world with beautiful landscape. And in the other side, I grew up with the history of European king with power. And so I grew up with those 2 components, liberty, freedom, and oppression. And I feel like it's in my identity. I don't know how I can explain it, but I knew when I was in Guadeloupe, Caribbean, that there was something wrong. And it's like if my work is trying to adjust to make this sort of balance between freedom and oppression.
Do you see this as a global conversation?
Of course, yes. I think that it's my work touches my identity, but it's an open window on the world. We can see in Ukraine now with the Taliban, in many places, many countries in the world, there is a sort of fight for equality, for freedom against oppression. So I think my work is my voice. It's a way to express myself, to say, hello, hey, we have to stop. We have to see the world, and we have to act. We have to do something because there is something wrong. But I think it's not a fight against white supremacy. This is very important. It's not a fight against white supremacy. It's a fight for equality, for freedom. And that's the point. I think we can there is no point in supporting a system intent on crushing you.
What is the difference between the fight for equality and a fight against white supremacy?
I think the white supremacy, it's a good question. It's complicated. I think the white supremacy is not always the in French, I don't have the word, but the cause that touches it's not the cause only this point. It's a way we are living. It's also the way we are living together. I think Florida is maybe the most segregated country in the US, maybe, I don't know. Cuban are living in their own community, Haitian are living in their own community, French and Canadian are living in their own community. I don't feel this kind of global community that can unite us in the same global community. And I think in those communities, there are some little fights, little things that, and we are not living together. It's only the way we are living together that could give us the possibility to live in freedom. I don't know if it's clear.
Sure. How does materiality play in this conversation? Your choice of materials is quite broad. How do the soft and gentle materials and the hard and shiny surfaces, how do they play in that conversation? What is the role that they play?
I think that I am trying to create the reverse of our world, a sort of beautiful world without oppression, and beauty with beautiful colors, beautiful landscape, sort of embroideries and beautiful patterns. Beauty is a result of the fight. Beauty is the end of the fight. Beauty is very important in my work because it defines how we can be with freedom.
There is certainly beauty in the way that you've stepped outside the frame of a traditional painting.
Yeah, yes, correct.
Where does that freedom, that sense of freedom to do that come from? And how long have you worked in that way?
I think I started to work that way when I learned about the Caribbean histories, and when my father started to talk to me about his family, about the past of Guadeloupe, about how people, even if we are an overseas department of France, we are still fighting for sort of freedom because we are not free. We are living upon the French government. That means we are following the rules of the French government, but we are part of the Caribbean. So it's a very complicated situation because there is a lack of freedom. And I started to learn, to read, to be in touch with Aimé Césaire, with Raphaël Confiant, and to start to understand what was the issue. And that was the first point to engage my creativity in that way.
How does figuration play a role in that?
Figuration, I think I am first trying to create a bridge between the US story and the Caribbean story. And I feel like there are a lot of common links between both. And I started to learn about the US history. I was very interested by people who fought in another way against supremacies for equality. So that means I started to read James Baldwin. I knew a lot about Josephine Baker because she was living and she died in France. Nina Simone, a lot of different personalities that give me inspirations. And you can, in the back, in the Ruby Bridges backlight, which is behind you, Ruby Bridges, a very important figure for me because she integrated the first white school in 1959 or 1958, I don't remember exactly. So all those characters are part of my work, are part of my imagination, but they allows me the possibility to understand the US history.
You mentioned a number of Black American artists who sought the freedom of creativity in France. And they're all voices that have since moved on. Are there contemporary voices that influence your practice?
Yes, correct, a lot, yeah.
And how has the pandemic and those conversations with those contemporary voices influenced what you're making now?
I think that the health crisis that affected us in March 2020, but also the death of George Floyd pushes my creativity. I think I worked a lot during the first year of the pandemic, and I have been very revolted by the death of George Floyd, and I was like, okay, where are we going? That's unbelievable. We can stay. We can live in this world without crying out. That's impossible. We have to say something. And the death of George Floyd for me was a sort of symbol, but also the point of departure of a new work for me. And but I feel like I am always frustrated because I am always saying that, okay, my work is my voice, I am crying out, but it's not enough. It's not enough. It's just backlight, it's just painting, it's just, but it's not enough to touch people. And there is a lot of frustration behind my work, and I am trying to find the way to do more, to give more to people. I don't know how I can do that, but I am thinking about it, and maybe, I don't know, creating a foundation, something like that. I don't know.
I think the role of artist as bullhorn is plenty. And I thank you for the contribution that you make in that conversation. Can you tell me, do you consider each work an act of resistance?
Yes, each of them. I think through the Ruby Bridges backlight, because it's behind you, you can read a story. You can read this sort of conversation between her and this little girl, white little girl behind her. And you can imagine so many things. Each viewer can imagine so many things. Can imagine through their own background, and they can rely these pictures, which is from another reality, to their own reality. And it's a way, I think, for the viewer to ask questions, to interrogate themselves. So yes, it's a way to each piece of art is for me a way to act, to say something.
Who is your audience? Who are you making work for?
I think it's also a good question. It's a good question. Any kind of people. Any kind of people. I love to exhibit in museums because it's a specific audience, but I love to be out of those institutional spaces, because you can touch people that will never put a foot in a museum. So it's totally another other kind of viewers, and it's very interesting to touch this audience, because their questions are much more about real life, I would say. So it's any kinds of viewers, I think.
Do you think there's a disconnect between access and the audiences that have access to institutional spaces and
Yes.
the general public?
Yes.
And how do you bridge that gap?
For example, there is a piece in the show, the gloves of the little worker in the street. It's a piece that I made, and it was the gloves that I keep from a little worker working in the street in the neighborhood of Little Haiti in Miami. And I was talking with him because I was collected at this time some objects who had a link between the domination with domination. And I was talking with him, explaining that I am an artist, I am a full-time artist, and I am creating this sort of collection of objects. He told me that he was always working in the street, and the gloves for him was part of the domination. And I say, okay, I would love to have this pair of gloves. I would like to turn it in a beautiful pair of gloves in porcelain. And he gave me the gloves, and I turned it in a beautiful pair of gloves in porcelain stuffed with fabrics. And for me, it was a way to highlight his experience, his life, and to highlight his life like a beautiful, that's something important, in something very important. And I think I did it. And it's a way to put his life in my my narrative. That's important for me.
What would you like your audiences to know about your thoughts on labor and workers?
I think that we can build a world without oppression. We can try to do it. We can try at least.
What role does, say, this found object or found images play in the narrative that you were trying to create? Like, I find a very interesting connection between the gloves and a conversation about the beauty of this one life, but also about the contribution of laborers.
I always think that we have all a role to play in our society. We can have money, we can have low income, we can be rich, we can have different background. We all have a role to play. And I think that's important to know and to understand it. I mean, if no one come to clean my studio every day, if no one is here in a market to give you the food you need, and etc., at different level, we need each other. We need each other, and we have to understand it.
Moving a little to the actual physical artwork. You work a wide range of materials and techniques, painting and collage and sewing. What is the sense of play that you feel when working with new materials?
I love playing with different kinds of material. I'm always trying to know which material would be the best, the most adequate to explain my idea. So I can work with any kind of materials, I think, even if I don't know how to play with it. I can learn, and I am learning every day. In this residency today, I am learning to work with bronze. I never did it, but I need this material to explain my idea, so I have to learn. And in this way, I am learning a lot every day, and that's amazing. That's amazing to use the material the most adequate to explain what you want to say. That's amazing.
Is there a material or technique that you return to, or something that makes you feel connected to your history or your own past in some way?
I think I am first a painter. I am a painter. The painting is for me it's inside my body. Painting in large formats. It's my first discipline.
Well, thank you. We will have some questions and answers, but before then, I'd like to turn the mic over to Wim Roefs, who will talk to us a little about the exhibition that's hanging.
Hello, everyone. My name is Wim Roefs. I'm the curator of the exhibition, and I've been asked to talk a little bit about the process of curating an exhibition like this. And it's a process that is, on the one hand, pretty straightforward, on the other hand, quite complicated. And all that has to do with the nature of this project and this exhibition. Typically, when you organize an exhibition, curate an exhibition, you do that well in advance. You work on that maybe years, certainly for a traveling exhibition. And as a curator, you have an opportunity to select artists around a theme or an approach or whatever it is you want to do or say with the exhibition. You select artists that fit whatever you had in mind for the exhibition. Well, with this exhibition, this show, it's an entirely different beast. For one thing, I'm really only sort of a half curator because I don't select the artists, obviously. The artists get selected by several jury panels who look at all the submissions from the artists who want to be considered to become state fellows. And these panels look at everything and select for each state a fellow, a South Arts fellow, and then later on they select the winner of the Southern Prize and a runner-up. So the artists are already in place. The other thing that's different from a regular exhibition is that up until, say, about 4 months before the exhibition opens at its first venue, nobody knows who the artists are, let alone knows what the artwork is. That means that the first thing in curating the show and selecting the work is to figure out what is still available of the work that the artist submitted. You cannot expect artists to sort of hang on to the work while the submission and the selection and the panel process sort of works itself out. No, they might have sold some of that work in the meantime. They might have committed it to other exhibitions. There might be all kinds of reasons why the work might not be available. So you first come to a selection, to an inventory of what's there. And then you start replacing work that might no longer be available for the exhibition. And so you talk to artists, what do they have available? You know, as a curator, I prefer to get replacement works that are sort of in a similar vein as the work that was submitted, because that's the kind of work on the basis of which the artists were selected. And that's a bit of a back and forth. And that's not just a process that takes place before the inaugural exhibition, the first one. It continues as the show starts traveling, because work might be available for a few months and then it may no longer be available. For instance, one of the artists in the current show, all her work was available for the first show at the Bo Bartlett Center in Columbus, Georgia, but not for the second one right now at 701 Center for Contemporary Art, but again for the rest of the exhibitions in Charlotte, Charleston, and Orlando. And so you're doing a lot of in-between logistics and sort of coordination to get certain works to certain places where they will be exhibited. That all sort of creates a good bit of complications and some logistical challenges, but it keeps it interesting. And either way, whatever works you get from these artists, I think the sort of the trust is, and the expectation, and so far the result is that you can rely on the work to be good, and that you can rely on this to be an exhibition of good art. After all, these people were selected from their state as the most interesting or best, or whichever way you want to call it, artists who submitted from that state for this process. So you're bound to get really interesting art, good art. And even though as a curator, you don't have a say in who the artists are, you still try when you select the work to create an exhibition that sort of hangs together well, where the work complements each other well. And so, and more importantly, where the work actually will fit in whatever exhibition spaces it's going to go to. And so that forms part of the basis of how you select work. After that, the exhibition designer has a little hand in making it look like it was all meant to be, and that all these artists sort of work in conjunction with each other to have a great show. And I think that so far that has worked. There are many ways to do that, and it has worked reasonably well. I think the end result with this exhibition and the previous two has also been that it really has given us a good snapshot of some of the best contemporary art that is being made in the South right now. That's not the same as saying some of the best Southern art, in a sense that this is not an exhibition of quote unquote Southern art, if Southern art is understood as art that addresses themes related to the US South, that might involve aesthetics and approaches that might be sort of traditional to all kinds of elements of Southern culture, Southern life, and what have you. That's not what this is, although there is some of that work in the exhibition. This is not an exhibition that addresses Southern themes specifically, or Southern aesthetics or what have you. This is really a snapshot of contemporary work made in the South, which also includes a lot of work, most of the work actually, that addresses themes that is much, much broader, much wider than specific Southern issue. And Marielle really sort of gave a good example of that. She addresses broader themes that nevertheless apply to the US South as well. So I think this is really fastly becoming one of the most prominent exhibitions of art made in the South. And I'm really looking forward to seeing what the exhibitions will be in the next several years. Thank you.
Thank you, Wim. Marielle, I have one question left. Have you had time to reflect on what the prize means for you and for your practice?
Can you say it again, please?
Have you had time to reflect on what the prize means to you and to your practice?
Yes. it's a huge recognition for me. It's amazing. It's amazing. It's wonderful. You know, when you are living, you are working in your studio every day in a closed space, even if you are in relation with curators, museums. The Southern Prize, for me, it's something amazing because we are touching audiences, different kinds of audiences. And I can tell you that the night I was awarded, I received a lot of messages from a lot of different artists I didn't know in the South. And I am in touch with some of them. And that gives you a sort of, not an importance, but a visibility. And this give me, you know, I'm living in the US in 6 years. It's a short time. In this short time, I got the Consortium Prize, Florida Prize, Southern Prize, and different other commissions in public art. But I am always, okay, what does it mean? How can I go further? And is my work great, nice? Am I doing something nice, something great? Am I able to give to the viewer something? And with this prize, I'm like, okay, I'm going to push more, I'm going to do more, I'm going to work more. And it's not for me to be successful only, it's to be visible. And that's really important, I mean, for an artist.
Wonderful. Thank you for sharing. Thank you all for joining us. If you have an opportunity, the exhibition hangs at 701 CCA through March 6th. And you can also see the exhibition in the following locations. At the Harvey B. Gant Center for African American Art and Culture in Charlotte, North Carolina, beginning March 18th through May 29th, 2022. At the City Gallery at the Waterfront Park in Charleston, South Carolina, beginning July 15th through August 28th. At the University of Central Florida in Orlando, Florida, beginning September 15th through October 28th. Again, thank you all for joining us. Thank you, Marielle, for sharing your work.
Thank you so much.
And congratulations on winning the prize.
Thank you.